The antibacterial therapies market is a critical segment of the pharmaceutical industry. As we know, antibacterial therapies remain a cornerstone of modern medicine. They're essential for treating bacterial infections ranging from mild community-acquired diseases to life-threatening hospital-acquired infections. However, the ongoing global threat of antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, intensifies the need for novel antibacterial agents with unique mechanisms of action to address resistant pathogens. This report provides a comprehensive overview of the current FDA-approved antibacterial drug classes, emerging pipeline therapies, market segmentation, and key innovators shaping the antibacterial therapeutics landscape. Let's start with the top FDA-approved antibacterial drug classes. We have beta-lactams, which are the most widely prescribed class of antibiotics. They inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis by targeting penicillin-binding proteins, or PBPS. Examples include penicillins like amoxicillin, cephalosporins like ceftriaxone, carbapenems like meropenem, and monobactams like aztreonam. Beta-lactams offer broad-spectrum coverage of both gram-positive and gram-negative infections. They are the first-line treatment for many bacterial infections and are considered the most valuable class due to their efficacy and safety profile. However, the emergence of beta-lactamases, enzymes produced by bacteria that break down beta-lactam antibiotics, has led to increased resistance, limiting their effectiveness. Next, fluoroquinolones, which are synthetic broad-spectrum antibiotics that inhibit bacterial DNA gyrase and topoisomerase 4, blocking DNA replication. Examples include ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin, and moxifloxacin. They're commonly used to treat respiratory, urinary tract, and gastrointestinal infections. While effective and convenient due to their oral and for forms, their use is limited by safety concerns like tendon rupture and increasing resistance. Macrolides, which bind to the 5-OS-ribosomal subunit to inhibit protein synthesis. Examples include azithromycin, clarithromycin, and erythromycin. They're used for respiratory tract infections, atypical bacteria like chlamydia and mycoplasma, and sexually transmitted diseases. Macrolides are valuable alternatives for patients with penicillin allergies but face challenges due to rising resistance. Glycopeptides, which inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis by binding D-allyl-D-alar. Examples include vancomycin and teicoplanin. These are crucial for treating gram-positive resistant infections like MRSA and Clostridioides difficile. Despite their effectiveness, glycopeptides have limited oral absorption except in gut infections. Tetracyclines, which bind to the 3-OS-ribosomal subunit to block protein synthesis. Examples include doxycycline, minocycline, and tigecycline. Used for acne, respiratory infections, zoonoses, and multi-drug-resistant infections. Their broad-spectrum activity and availability as oral agents make them valuable. Tigecycline is also used IV for resistant infections. Oxazolidinose, which inhibit protein synthesis by binding to the 5-OS-ribosomal subunit. Examples include linezolid and tadalafil. These are crucial for oral and for therapy of multi-drug-resistant gram-positives like MRSA and VRE. Aminoglycosides, which bind to the 3-OS subunit causing mRNA misreading. Examples include gentamicin, amikacin, and tobramycin. They're used for serious gram-negative infections, often in combination therapy. While effective, their use is limited by toxicity primarily in hospital settings. Now let's move on to the pipeline antibacterial therapies. First, cephalosporin, for cephalosporin. It exploits bacterial iron transport to enter and inhibit cell wall synthesis in gram-negative bacteria. Approved for complicated urinary tract infections and hospital-acquired pneumonia, it's marketed as Fatroya by Shionogi. Its unique mechanism makes it effective against carbapenem-resistant gram-negative pathogens like Pseudomonas and Acinetobacter. Next, lefamulin, a pleuromedullin antibiotic that inhibits the 5-OS ribosomal subunit, blocking protein synthesis. Approved for community-acquired bacterial pneumonia, marketed as then later by 𝗪𝗡𝗑. It offers a novel class oral and for forms and is active against resistant gram-positives and atypical pathogens. 𝗕𝗥𝗧𝗜, a fluoroquinol that inhibits DNA gyrase and topoisomerase. Approved for skin infections and community-acquired pneumonia. Marketed as Baxdela by Melinta, it's an MRSA active agent with flexible oral for dosing. 𝗪𝗚𝗪�cycline, a fluorocycline that inhibits protein synthesis. Approved for complicated intra-abdominal infections. Marketed as Xerava by Tetraphase, it's active against multidrug-resistant gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. Plasmicin, an aminoglycoside that disrupts bacterial protein synthesis. Approved for complicated urinary tract infections, marketed by Cipla as Xendrey. It's effective against carbapenem-resistant enterobacterias. Omadacycline, a tetracycline derivative that inhibits protein synthesis. Approved for community-acquired bacterial pneumonia and skin infections. Marketed as Nuzyra by Paratek, it's a broad-spectrum oral and for agent. New beta-lactam, beta-lactamase inhibitors like meropenem, vaborbactam, and ceftazidime, avibactam target beta-lactam plus novel inhibitors to overcome resistance. They're approved for complicated infections with resistant gram-negatives and are indicated for carbapenem-resistant infections. We'll next review the market segmentation of antibacterial therapies. By drug class, the market is divided into beta-lactams, fluoroquinones, macrolides, glycopeptides, tetracyclines, oxazolidinones, aminoglycosides, and others. By indication, it's segmented into respiratory infections, urinary tract infections, skin and soft tissue infections, intra-abdominal infections, and bloodstream infections or sepsis. By pathogen, the market is divided into gram-positive, gram-negative, atypical bacteria, and multi-drug-resistant organisms. By route, it's divided into oral, injectable, and topical. Finally, by usage, it's divided into hospital therapies, outpatient therapies, and over-the-counter therapies. Finally, let's look at the top 4 innovators in the antibacterial therapies market. First, Pfizer Inc. with key products like Zithromax and azithromycin and pipeline beta-lactamase inhibitors. Strengths include a large global footprint and robust infectious disease research and development. However, risks include generic competition and growing resistance pressure. GlaxoSmithKline or GSK is another key player with strengths in diverse antibiotic innovation investments. Key products include Augmentin, a fixed-dose combination of amoxicillin and clavulanate, and Nuzyra and omadacycline. However, risks include patent cliffs and generic erosion. Shionogi & Co. Limited is a third key player with strengths in innovative antibacterial therapies. Cefiderocol, its sole commercial product, is a cytorof for cephalosporin. While facing challenges in commercial scale outside Japan and reliance on a limited product portfolio, its unique mechanism of action positions it well for tackling resistant gram-negative bacteria. 𝗪𝗡𝗪𝗔 Therapeutics is a fourth key player with strengths in developing novel antibiotics. Lefamulin, its lead product, is a pliamudulin. However, challenges remain in terms of market penetration and its smaller biotech scale. In conclusion, the antibacterial therapies market is vital for combating bacterial infections. With the rise of antimicrobial resistance, the demand for novel agents and combination therapies is growing. The market is segmented based on drug class, indication, pathogen, route, and usage. Key trends include a focus on intravenous therapies for hospital-acquired resistant infections and oral agents with broad-spectrum and atypical coverage for outpatient and community settings. The top innovators in this space continue to invest in research and development to address the evolving needs of this crucial market. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.